Okay, that's how I'm feeling. She asked me if I'm fine. I said, hell no, bitch, I'm healing. My money standing tall, sticking it up right to the ceiling. You stop at the red light, but bitch.
Welcome back to Off the Fucking Clock, episode 3. We got a special guest today, Richard. What up, Richard? This is my boy Richard right here.
Good, Rich.
On today's
What up?
episode, we're going to be going over parenting, all right? We're going to be going over how kids should be raised, how they shouldn't be raised, you know. There's a lot of crazy shit that happens in today's time, right? Like there's a lot of kids who do some wild shit, and a lot of that comes from parenting. Like the way kids are raised defines their future, you know? So, yeah, that's basically about it. First, I want to start off with how all of us are raised, okay? Growing up, because some people have strict parents, some people have like more lenient parents, and that kind of defines the person on how they grow up, you know? So let's start off with Dylan. Dylan, how is it getting raised in your household? Like, what should I say? Like, was it very strict? Did you have any like bedtimes? Do you have any curfews? Could girls come over? How was that shit?
No, it's pretty lenient my entire life. I'm not gonna lie. Like, my parents were pretty chill. I mean, obviously they were strict on certain shit. Like, my mom was always like top tier in school. Obviously didn't apply to that when I was in school, but she was like super strict on me in school. Even me, like growing up, even now older, like being older, like she's still like super strict on me getting a job and like working and just like being there every day. So I mean, I grew up pretty lenient. I mean, it's just like pretty basic parenting. I mean, they did obviously like everything they could. I appreciate it. So I grew
Right.
up in a pretty chill household.
Kenji, how about you?
Yeah, my parents, it was pretty simple. It was like our like one rule, I guess, or whatever that my parents gave me was straight A's in school, and like as long as I get straight A's in school, and like I guess like my education part is good,
Uh-huh.
I would usually get anything I want.
And you never had any curfews or anything, or
No, as long as the grades were up, they didn't really bother me. You know what I mean?
I guess me and you are kind of on the same boat because that's how it was for my family. Me and Kenji are both European. We both have European families, so they kind of raise all their kids the same, you know.
Yeah, it's like the classic European story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Education first, and then they don't really mind. Obviously, like the common stuff, you know, no drugs and all that when I was a young age.
Yeah,
Like, obviously, they don't condone drugs.
Yeah,
but
it was the same
other
for
than
me.
that, yeah.
I didn't really do good in school. My mom and dad, they cared about it. They obviously wanted me to do good, but if I did bad or like decent, they wouldn't care. As long as their goal is for me to graduate, that's all it was for me. But Richard, how about you?
Oh, dude, my upbringing was fucking bananas, dude. When I was a kid, like I lived with my grandmother
Right.
for the majority of my upbringing because my mom was, she was mentally inept to be able to raise me. So basically, my grandmother had custody of me, right? And so back then, we're talking, early 90s to mid 90s, she worked in a factory and she was basically supporting like 4 of her own kids. Plus, I was living there as a grandkid. So we really didn't have a lot of money. And we came from a very, very socioeconomically deprived background, right? So it was very like, at the end of the year for Christmas, we were doing, getting gifts from like the food pantry and that sort of stuff. So it was very humble beginnings, I'll tell you that.
Right. Will, how about you? Was shit cool around the house, or did you have some pretty strict parents, or how was that?
I mean, it depends. Like, so I only grew up with my dad. It was just me and my dad. So he was pretty strict. Like, I did have like a curfew. Like, he would do this whistle thing. So like when I was outside, like doing whatever, like when I heard the whistle, like
That's how
I knew
you-
it was like I had to
It was
like get
time to
home.
come in.
It's your
Exactly.
ass. It's your ass.
Exactly. So, and that was when I was like young. He was real strict. But then I got older. He chilled out. The thing he was always least strict about was like hanging out with girls and like having girls over.
Yeah.
So I think that was like the one perk of like having like just me and my dad, because like he was a guy, so like he knew what it was.
Yeah. I feel
So
like
he was real strict, but like when it came to girls, it was like whatever. Like he'd wingman for me sometimes.
Yeah, I feel
Oh,
like
that's awesome.
I feel
Shit,
like
that's great dad.
I feel like that's how most dads are, to be honest. I mean, that's how my dad is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
sure.
I could
They
agree.
give
yeah.
you the old high five if they catch you. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
He was strict on like everything except girls.
All right, I have a question for you guys. Who do you think is more raising a kid, right? who do you think is more prone to break rules? The kid who has strict parents, who say you can't go out at this time, you can't do this. You think they're like more prone to go out and be past their curfew and do that shit and break the rules, or do you think a kid who's more like who has more lenient parents? Do you think they are more prone to break like rules
Is
since
this
they have
open,
more,
or you
since they have
who
more
you
freedom?
asking?
Like yeah, all you guys just
Dude, if you give any restrictions to anyone, they're going to test the limits, right?
I
Generally,
agree.
if you give somebody open freedom, they get bored with it because there is no restrictions. But if you say, "Hey, I'm going to put you in a cage," they're going to test that boundary of that cage, and then they're going to go a little bit farther, and a little bit farther. You always hear about, the preacher's daughter going crazy because they've just been in sheltered life, and they don't. They're like, why did my my son or daughter act like this? Is because you've literally put them in a box so hard that's all they want to do is escape that. And when they escape royally.
Yep.
Especially in like this like new generation, I guess. Like parents, this is just like common like misconception, I guess, that I hear or whatever. But like parents obviously they want to keep you in a bubble, like they want to keep you safe and everything. But then you hear stuff from your friends like, oh, there's a party at night, and then you want to sneak out, and then you sneak out, you get away with it the first time. Second time goes around, you think it's gonna like same thing's gonna happen.
Mhm.
And then so like Richard was saying, yeah, you just want to like keep testing the limit. Like it's like that fear factor. Like you get like that like adrenaline rush when you like actually when you get away with something, you get an adrenaline rush,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I feel like everyone has like that fear factor
Right.
in them.
Yeah. I think
I think there's a certain type of like strictness, and it's like I think there should be bars set. Like there's a certain type of leniency and a certain type of strict. I mean, there's parents that literally you have to be in at 8 o'clock and you're 16 years old. You have Life 360 on. You have to text us wherever you're going, who you're with, when you're going. I think that's overboard. I mean, you can if I was a parent, like I would just want like shoot me a text like where you're going, like who you're going
Right.
with. Like I don't need to know. Like it's not a fucking deal breaker. And like you just have certain like you have the lenient parents that just like 15, 14-year-olds smoking, drinking, and then the parents fucking encourage it. They contribute to it and they add on
yeah.
to it. And so I think there's a certain limit of leniency and strictness that you have to meet at a certain
Yeah.
point.
You're
Yeah.
right. There's a middle ground. You
Uh-huh.
can be middle. You can have cake and eat it too in this situation where because all these parents have went through that situation and they did that stuff. They know
Mhm.
you're going to go through that. So it's like, hey, give them a little bit of slack, but
Yeah.
have some boundaries set up to where they can at least enjoy themselves, but say, hey, come back at like 11:30, 12 o'clock. Here's a
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
Let me know where you're at. If you're too fucked up, I'll come and get you. I don't care if you're fucked up.
Mhm.
Just let me come and get you. That sort of thing. Instead of being that asshole that's like, listen, you have to come back at 8 o'clock. Or I'm gonna fucking kick your fucking ass.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, fuck you, mom and dad. I'm gonna go out and fucking get a train's gonna get run on me. Fuck, I don't give a shit. Dude.
Yo. Yeah. I feel
Parents
like-
love parents love like parents will love you no matter what happens through thick and thin. I mean, you're their kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
And
know when I was growing up, my dad didn't really set super strict things, but like Dylan said, communication is like as long as you let your parent know what's happening, then you're good. Like if I told if I wanted a girl to come over, I'm not gonna like sneak her through the fucking window. Like that's just weird. I would tell my dad, "Yo, I got a girl coming over in like 20 minutes." He'd be like, "Okay, that's cool. I don't give a shit," If I wanted
That's
to
a
go
cool
out,
dad.
if I wanted to go out past midnight or some shit, I would just tell him like, "Yo, I'm going out," and he'd be like, "Okay, like." Text me when you're on your way home, or I'll see you tomorrow, or some shit. Like he didn't really care. But there's definitely it depends on the child too. Because me, I know what was wrong and what was wrong and what was right. So I grew up always doing right. My dad didn't have to tell me don't do drugs, don't smoke, don't party, don't do this. He didn't have to tell me any of that shit. I just knew what was wrong and what was right for myself, So, but there's some kids that don't know. They think doing drugs is cool and they think it's just a normal thing, so they go out and do it. So
Will,
I mean, I kind of like disagree with like most of it. I think I think you have to be strict. I know a lot of people were saying like if you're gonna be strict, like that's just gonna push them away further. But like me personally, and I know we'll talk about it more as like we go on like how we would be as parents, but like I don't know. I just feel like you gotta like be strict, especially when they're young and like set boundaries. Like I think Dylan was talking about like it's overboard if you're like texting them like trying to figure out exactly where they're at like every second. Like personally, like I would want my kids' location. Like I would want to know where they're at every second.
right.
Especially like this day and age. Like I feel like Dude, there's so many weirdos that walk these streets and like so many like fucked up like fucking creatures on this planet. Like I would want to know where my kids at 24/7. I would want
Yeah.
to like not ruin their childhood, but like I'd want to keep them away from all that shit. So I
Right.
think like it's better to be really strict, especially like the day we're an age we're in now.
Yeah, you're trying
see-
to
I
be
see
more
where you're-
more safe than sorry type shit.
Yeah.
I
Well,
see where
it's
you're
not-
coming from,
it-
Will.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, I was gonna say, real quick, I see where you're coming from, Will, and I definitely think there's different, like, there's like a different type of strict, like between having a daughter and having, you know, a boy. You know what I mean?
That actually is a
Like
fact.
having a daughter and a son. I mean, all of us are guys, so like, I feel like usually parents are. This is just like common thing, but like usually parents are like less strict or like more lenient. You know what I mean on the son,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, with their boys rather than
Yeah.
their girls.
Less protective. Yeah, they're definitely less protective.
Well, I mean, also you could set age barriers too, and then be able to test them on small things and see if they fuck up. Because you know, if they fuck up on the small stuff, they're going to fuck up on the big stuff,
My
right? And
parents
then-
used to test me on everything. They literally would set up tests and like I knew it. Like I would read their minds.
Someone
Well,
said
the thing
in the-
about
what?
I think
Go
the
ahead.
thing about being strict, I mean, obviously like, you want to know where they are. Like I think I over exaggerated that on being strict. I mean, that's just like what parents should do, knowing and who they're with. But it gets to a point where if you're hounding them, just like on their ass about it, like constantly, and just like berating them about it, I feel like you should be somewhat lenient on them.
So-
You should just know who they're
Yeah.
berating with.
So one of the chatters made a good point. They said, "Laud, girls get the shit into the stick." Okay, here's the reason by that. Think about it from the parent's perspective. If the girl goes out and gets pregnant, underage, the parents are responsible for the kid, right? Obviously, the parents do not. They're being overly restrictive on their daughter because. What if she, accidentally gets pregnant? They're caught with the bill. You have to understand from a monetary perspective that they're on the hook for childcare. They have to take care of it. They're basically raising a child that they never asked for. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So they're going to be super strict on the girl because the repercussions are way more severe having a female rather than having a male. Whereas, listen, there could be child support, there could be that sort of thing, but that's just monetary. With the girl, you have a physical baby that you have to take care of, and now the parents are involuntarily involved, regardless of what they feel about the situation.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to something else somebody said in chat. It said, should kids be spanked?
I saw
how
that,
do,
yeah.
how do you guys think you should, like, say you guys all grow up, right, and you guys all have kids. How would you punish your kids, or would you punish them, like, at all? Would you just give them a talk, or would you actually get into actual
I
punishment?
see. I don't like. I can see, like, from like a smack on the hand or like a little smack on the cheek. But if you're like full on like spanking them, like I think that's OD. Like I think like a little bit of a smack, like I think that's fine. But there's some parents that go like overboard with it, and they think it's doing something.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
were
well,
raised soft.
they-
You were raised soft.
I guess. It's a.
It's
I don't know.
yeah.
It's a two-way.
Can I
it's a
speak on this
two-way
one
thing.
really quick?
Yeah.
Can I speak on
Yeah,
this
go
one?
ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so like Sir was saying before, my parents are from Eastern Europe, right? And I mean, over there's no rules. So like child abuse is a regular thing. I mean, I honestly think, and I'm not gonna lie, like my parents, I mean, my dad specifically, if I did something wrong, if I like broke the rules, I mean, I got the spanking of like the world. Like I wouldn't be able to sit down for weeks.
Oh, dude,
The wood stick would come out, the old like belt trick, like that. I went through all of that.
They'd
And
be like, put your hand through there, and they go.
right.
yeah, and now looking back at it, obviously like I'm older now, like I'm not getting spanked now, obviously, but like when I was a kid, like looking back at it, it really did, like it like makes you second guess. Like say you're about to do this, like make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
I mean, like in the back of your head, it brings up that memory. Like it definitely makes you second guess doing
Mhm.
like making the mistake again. So
It instills like discipline in you.
Exactly.
Like, it's like I think that like helps you in the long run. I think like it is an unpopular opinion like in the day we're in now to like
Right.
say like spanking kids and stuff, but like
Yeah.
when I grew up and stuff like that was like normal stuff, and like
Sure.
you obviously you hate it in the moment, right?
Yeah.
But like
Mhm.
it instills like discipline in you, and like it definitely instills fear in you. And I think as a kid, like I don't think you should be scared of your parents, but like I think you should be scared of how they will look at you if you break the rules, obviously. So
Yeah.
I think like obviously like looking back on it helped me a lot. Would I do it these days? I mean, probably not. Just like the world we live in, like I feel like the like shit can just get misconstrued so easily.
You
Like
can
I
get a
could
lot of, yeah,
spank
you can
my
get trouble.
child,
Yeah.
like I could spank them lightly, and like if someone finds out, it could turn into like I was abusing the fuck out of my child. So like I just
Yeah.
think like this day, bro, like it could get taken way too far. So like I probably
Uh-huh.
wouldn't do it, but I think it did help me for
Yeah,
sure.
me.
I'll tell you what, like you always remember when that happened. You know, it's one of
Yeah.
those things when you got spanked, it leaves a psychological mark on you. I remember the times where I got in trouble, where my dad came in, beat the shit out of me, or my grandmother came in, freaking laid hands on my ass, dude. You
Yeah.
know, like, but you remember the thing is you can look at it and say, hey, you know, it's formative years. You know, I did something bad. But you could also look at this as an adult and be like, hey, I remember every time that happened. So you could say, was that did that hurt me psychologically, or did that form me into a thing that maybe I appreciated?
Yeah, yeah.
And now I could remember that they did it for a good reason. So it just it really depends on your perspective of how you look at that, you know, but you will remember it, you know?
Yeah.
As you grow up and like age, I feel like you look back at it and a lot of the things that you hated in the moment, like now I look back and I'm so glad my parents did that. So I feel like it definitely changed me. You know what I mean? It definitely like I was like as I was heading off the wrong path, it brought me back to the right one.
Yeah.
Well, if you're an adult, you think about it like, what would you do in their position? You know, you can put yourself in that deal and be like, hey, listen, was this warranted? And maybe sometimes it wasn't, but that's how it makes you a better parent, because you can say, hey, like, I remember that stuff. I won't repeat that, but maybe I will do it on something when they really fuck up hard, you know?
Yeah.
And then you learn from that stuff, you know?
Like I said, it just depends on the kid. For me, again, when I grew up, I never got spanking. Like of course, my dad would be like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna get a spanking and shit," and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I'm scared." But growing up, I never really got punished like at all. Like my mom would sometimes be like, "If you do this, I'm gonna take your phone away," but I knew she would never take my phone, so I went and did it anyways. But I guess
Right.
it's kind of just like a rare case of just
The repercussions are not severe enough
yeah, it
for you
wasn't
to
really
be able to
severe.
throw you.
Then
I
again,
didn't
feel-
want my grandma to fucking right cross me in the face.
I
You
feel
know,
like
I'm
it's
like,
more
wow,
of a
that fucking hurt.
generational thing as well, because the generation before me, which is like my dad, right? He grew up super bad. Like Richard, you know how Wyandotte is and shit. Like it was super bad. Getting raised and shit by my dad's dad, like my grandpa used to like just beat the shit out of my dad. He gave my dad the worst
Yeah.
life ever. So some parents think that, and they think, damn, I lived a horrible life growing up. I would never want that on my kids, you know?
Well, that's how my dad grew up, because my original, like my actual grandpa left
Yeah,
my
yeah.
dad for a different family, and he grew up with stepdads that just
Yeah.
were drunks, and they were just
Yeah.
fucking.
I feel
Beat
like
the shit out of
my dad.
some parents get scarred by like their previous life, and they look at their like the new life that they're bringing, and they make sure that shit doesn't happen at all. So I feel like that was the case with me and like my dad and shit. He never really did that to me because
Well, I'm just like Serbian situation. Like my parents threatened it, but it never happened. My grandma used to
Yeah,
smack
yeah.
me. My grandma
Yeah.
used to smack the shit out of me. And
Grandma,
my
grandmas
parents,
are tough, man. They're fucking.
like every time if I fucked up with my grandma, she smacked the absolute shit out of me. But it was to my parents. No, my parents never did any of that.
It's definitely like circumstantial, you know.
I just feel like
Yeah.
these days, though, it gets looked at as like a super
No,
bad
100%.
thing.
Whoa, no, yeah,
I can
of course.
see
I
that.
don't-
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
it's
absolutely.
just because of
like
sensitivity
that.
in this day and age. Is
Like the line,
off the
yeah.
fucking charts.
Like I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to seem. Like if you're getting like smacked on the butt, like come on now, is that really like is that
Especially if
child
you're-
abuse?
The
Like,
line,
I
the
don't,
line is like
I don't
it's
consider
really
that child
thin now.
abuse
yeah,
personally.
yeah.
I
The
don't
thing
think it's
is-
child
Yeah.
abuse.
Well, right, but the thing is like, what does the teachers and what does the court define that as? They could go, you know, the kid could get a spanking and then go to school and be like, my parents hit me. And then
Yeah.
what it does, it just causes a whole fucking shitstorm. Now you got like child protective services coming to your house.
Yep.
You're trying to defend yourself and trying to punish your kids. Then the kid's like saying, "Hey, he beats the shit out of me." And then there's all kinds of radical shit that can happen right now,
Yeah.
just from a little small thing. Back when we were kids, when you said that, they'd be like, "Oh, well, you probably deserved it, you little fuck."
Yeah, yeah.
You know. Nowadays they're like, "Holy shit, did they rape you?" You know.
Yeah, yeah,
What,
yeah.
what else did they do to you? You know,
Oh,
dude,
fuck.
it's like you have to fucking tread lightly on that shit, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I do think we live in an age where there is more like, I think it was the Gabriel Fernandez case. I mean, we live in fucking a world where shit like that happens to kids. So I do think that you have
Right.
to move more loosely around spanking now because of that. I mean, I'm not saying
Move
like it's a
mostly around
horrible thing.
anything,
Right.
honestly.
I'm not
Like,
saying it's a horrible thing to do. I mean, I wouldn't do it me personally. Just like hearing from my dad's experiences and shit like that. But I'm not. I obviously wouldn't beat my kids with a belt like he was and like
Right.
fucking extension cord.
There's definitely a fine line between like discipline and abuse, like in today's world. You know what I mean? Definitely a fine line now.
If you guys, like I said, you guys grow up and have children one day, I don't know. I've never really got an age limit to do really anything. What would you guys set the age limit for your child to like have a girlfriend or boyfriend? Like,
I think
started taking it seriously.
I think it doesn't matter what age to me. I mean, why would I need to stop them? Like, if they're in 4th grade, if they're 4 years old and they say they love some girl named fucking Holly, like, go love Holly then. Like,
Yeah.
Are we
Are you
talking
talking
about like
anything.
age difference? Are we talking about like an age, like what?
No, he's saying like how
like
old
at
can they
any
be?
age. Like, do you think like if you have a daughter, right? She's 14 years old, and like she really loves this boy at school, and she wants to go to his house all the time. She wants to like, go out with him. Like, how would you set restrictions for her?
I think that's
you know?
Well-
fine. That's fine with me. But like I said, I would definitely set hard boundaries if I had a daughter, like how you just said in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries of like the whole house thing, going over house. He can come over our house, but
Right.
Is it different if you have a son though? Is it different with a son?
yes, it's definitely.
Well,
That's what I think the more important question is like.
Yeah, he could roam free.
And have you
It's
had the
all-
talk?
in my opinion.
Like if they're having these feelings, have you had the talk with them yet? Birds and the bees type shit, right?
Mhm.
It's like, okay, listen, it's time to do that. You're interested in the fair sex. We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
What are you feeling? What are your interests? That sort of stuff. You got to have that conversation. Even though it's embarrassing for them and they don't want to have it.
I
But
mean,
it's like,
it's just as embarrassing for the fucking parents to be
well,
honest.
yeah, hell yeah, it is, man. They're like, shit, you feeling weird?
So Dylan,
feel
is it
funny
different
down there?
Is it different for you if you have a son versus a daughter versus what you're letting them do, or is it the same?
I think it's a hard question. Like honestly, obviously, like
So we're here to ask.
You know
hard
the
questions.
answer. You know.
I do feel like I think it's more of like not my daughter getting pregnant, it's her boyfriend getting her pregnant sometimes. Like sometimes she can't control it. Like it's on him.
It's when your girl has the period, the first one. Now it's like, okay, once that happens, generally the wife has the conversation with it because they can relate to it.
Uh-huh.
But that's when they know that they're fertile. It's like, holy shit. Now, as a dad, she has her first period. You're like, holy fucking shit. Your
Yeah.
whole perspective changes, right? You're
Yeah.
like, oh shit. I'm super protective because she could get pregnant at any time, right?
Yeah.
Guy looks at it, she's pregnant,
Uh-huh.
So I could see where like guys freak out and they let the mother talk about it. But some girls are daddy's girls and they need to step up and be like, listen, you're becoming a woman and having the talk and stepping up and doing that, depending on what relationship you have with the child,
Yeah,
I
someone-
mean,
Oh.
you can go.
Somebody
Romeo.
asked in chat, how old should your kid be to give them that talk of like,
Wait,
hey, like you shouldn't be going out just to some random dude's house to like go watch Netflix and shit. Like, what age do you think you should give your child that? Me personally, I think once you hit the age of like 13, probably, because
Puberty.
that's around 12 or 13,
Oh,
like.
Well,
like
I'm
seventh and eighth grade, because that. For
I'm pretty
me,
sure
that's
I
when
was-
people started like actually getting active and shit.
I was young when my parents talked about it. Like I was in like 4th, 5th grade when my parents told me about it. I think but I feel like once they get into 7th and 8th grade, they're gonna know, because I already knew.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but I already knew like how that shit worked.
Yeah, my parents never told me anything about like, oh, you shouldn't probably be doing that. They never told me any of that.
I
just
figured
like,
that shit out on my own.
Yeah.
Me
There's
too.
a lot of us were like, yeah.
I mean,
Right.
schools,
Trial and error.
teach it too. Schools
Right.
teach. Schools.
Why
have,
am I
like-
feeling funny down there? Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh, this feels weird, but good.
Right.
Around 7th,
Like,
8th grade is when they start talking about sex education, all that shit.
Like
so,
that whole like at my school, like in Wisconsin, like and our entire grade was in like our cafeteria watching like sex ed. Like that's
Yeah.
what like in 5th grade, like that's what we
The
did.
thing-
We'd watch
the thing-
videos on it.
They treat it as a joke though. Like they don't like talk to kids as adults with an adult thing. They're like, you know what? The teachers are hungover. They're like, fuck it. This is a day that I could just throw a video in front of them and just fucking die in front of a desk, right? That's what they do. They're, they're the same thing, man. they want, I mean, that, that's a conversation that needs to be like, listen, you're now an adult, we gotta like talk about this, give me questions, like it's a feedback type thing, not throw a video in like, this is where a penis goes in and you're fucking them and they freaking get pregnant,
Hey, yeah.
and then people laugh about it, because like the teacher doesn't want to fucking do anything, it's generally your PE teacher that doesn't even want to teach class. He's like, fuck it, I'll put this video in, fuck it, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
There's no seriousness to it,
I have a little side question, if I can. How would you guys feel if you had to have this talk? This is like a super like kind of specific situation, but it happens. If your son or daughter walks up to you like at a young age and like you're the parent and everything, and they tell you that they think they like the same sex.
Me personally, I've thought about it. I mean, it depends on. I mean, honestly, like, what am I supposed to do about it? Like at that point, like I feel like it's wrong to like deter them from something. Like I don't know.
One side of me is like, I really have to disown this person now, and then the other side of me is like, okay, we have to work this out. This is still my kid.
Gotta disown him. Jesus Christ.
I feel like I'd have like a devil on one shoulder and angel on the other.
My
that point.
God.
Like my dad growing up, he said it jokingly, but he meant it. He's like, if you ever were, well, I asked him, just like I wanted to know. I was like, if I ever was gay, like what would you do? He said, like I would still accept you, like you're my son. I would love you, like no matter what.
Right.
And I would feel the same way. Like I would have no problem with it. I'd be like, I feel like obviously, if you have a son, you want them to be
Happy.
a foot.
And
like,
I would have a relief. I'd be like, God, at least he's not gonna get a girl pregnant. I don't have to worry about that. Shit. That's one thing I don't have to worry about. Is fucking have to deal with the kid, man. You're good, man. Monkeypox, whatever, Shit.
Someone said Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve.
Said Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Oh my God.
I think it depends on the age that this
The
happens.
less I have to deal with, the better. I'm like, yeah, you know what?
well, I think it gets to a certain.
What age are they
yeah.
coming? Like, are they at a super young age where they don't really like understand this?
Yeah,
or are
I
they,
think-
like,
I think-
grown
I
up
think-
where like
With
I
social
think at a
media
certain-
and everything nowadays, like there's like 7-year-olds that knew more stuff than me since I was 18.
I mean, bro, when I was in 7th grade, like I didn't. When I was in 7th grade, I wasn't even talking to females. Like I wasn't even talking to girls. I was worried about fucking Call of Duty and
Playing
fucking
Dragon
going
Ball
outside
Z
and
and shit,
going
you know?
outside to play
Right.
football.
Wondering when
Yeah.
Goku was gonna do Super Saiyan and shit.
I know girls and guys that were like that they were gay, right? In 7th and 8th grade, and then by the end of high school they were straight. Like I feel like Will's right on that. Like if you're 8, 9, 10 years old and you're like, hey mom, I'm gay, I love boys, I love them, and then it's like you're a fucking 8-year-old kid. Like
yeah, you don't understand.
I
But Kenji,
feel
I have a
like they don't
follow-up question
understand.
for you specifically
Oh God. Okay.
because you were
Shoot.
talking about.
Shoot.
You were talking about the disown thing, and like I'm not gonna tell you to be honest because I know you'll be honest on this. Is it different if it's your daughter coming to you saying she likes girls, or your son coming to you saying he likes boys? Is it any difference? And be honest here. Like I know you may be biased because you're a guy, so that's why I'm asking you. Is it different if it's your 16-year-old daughter saying, "Hey, Dad, I think I'm attracted to girls," or your 16-year-old son, Kenan Jr., coming to you saying, "Dad, I like boys"?
Wow, way to
Oh my
fucking way to hammer him.
Honestly, the first thing that came to my mind, if I ever got in a situation, I would pack my bags and leave. I don't know what I would do. Honestly.
Wait,
I don't
for
think I
both
could
or for
handle
the
this
guy?
situation.
As a dad, you would leave the house. Like, what
As
is
a
that?
la- I might, yeah. Like
He's pulling
I gotta
the
go-
milk card.
I have to go get milk at the store. Like I'm busy.
I got cigarettes down the street.
Yeah.
oh my God.
Get out of here, man.
So you're
I would-
telling me if Kenan Jr. grows up and says I like boys,
When you
he's
say
growing up
that,
without a
when you say
father.
Kenan Jr., you're fucking.
If Kenan Jr. grows up and likes boys, he's growing up without a father.
You
Is
can't
that
say it
confirmed?
like that.
Well, I think it's the way you raise them because I mean,
That's what he said. He said I'm going.
Well,
to
no, I know, I know. That's what I'm
No.
saying. But certain households are like I feel like the more like down south, like conservative type of families. You don't have to be
Yeah.
conservative. I'm just pointing it out. They detract from stuff like that. But there's obviously households that are Republican or conservative, and they still have bi, lesbian, or gay son, daughters, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would. I think it gets to a certain age. I think if they're in high school and they say, "Oh, I'm gay," or they're attracted to the same sex, I mean, let them figure it out. Like, let them figure it out for like couple years. But I think if they're in like middle school, like young, like 8 years old, they don't
Right.
even know what they want yet. Like,
That's right.
they
They're
don't
in their
even know.
formative years.
All right, I think we ready. We can end this topic by going around all five of us and just answering this yes or no. Ready?
All right.
All right.
Your 18-year-old son, since we're all guys, he's 18 years old, right? Just turned 18.
Yeah.
18-year-old son comes to you and says, "I like boys." Does he have your support? Yes or no? And we can go around and just say that.
Yes.
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 I can't answer. I don't know. I'd be stuck in the middle. I don't know what I would do.
I mean, honestly,
I-
Okay, no, I can see what
Hopefully,
I mean. Like,
I pray I would never have to be in a situation. That's all I could say. I
Because,
pray I would
okay.
never have to be, because
obviously, as males, we want our son to grow up to be like.
that's similar to
The
us.
man- of the
There's
house-
no
the man of
no
the
right answer.
household
You
and, like,
Kenji, you
all-
could be like, you know what? Honestly, personally, I'd be disappointed, but I still love my kid.
Right.
You know, like you can say it
guess
like
that's the
that.
best way I could put it. Yeah. That's
I
the best.
think any of us would be distraught. Like I'd be like, wait, like we'd be shocked. Like it'd be like, wow.
No,
Like-
man. I mean,
Andrea,
So like
what?
Kenji, would you feel uncomfortable if like your son brought his boyfriend over for Thanksgiving?
Oh.
Would you feel uncomfortable?
wow. Way to go. Here we
You
go.
can't ask. There's no one in this call right now that can say they would be very comfortable with that.
I mean,
I
I'm
would
not,
be.
You guys cannot
Dylan?
say that.
No, yeah, I can back you up. I would-
Yeah, obviously, because like you grew up with him, and like you're like, oh, he likes girls, and then he brings home a boy. So it's like you have to get used. It's something you have to get used to.
Yeah, it
Like
would be
It's
shocking.
it's
at
one it's
first.
one
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
one thing to like say this, but when you see it, that I could see like how the perspective could be like, oh shit, man, I don't know if I'm ready for this. You know,
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people look at that as
feel
kind
like
of
kissing on each other and stuff. You know, you're like,
Yeah,
would
I
take
think
some-
Kenji's
all-
leaving the house at that point.
it would
Dinner's done.
it would take some getting used to at least.
you're gonna see Kenan pick up. You're gonna see Kenan pick up his Thanksgiving plate and then walk to his room.
Yo, Monster said something actually really good in chat. He said the media raises kids these days, not parents. And I
Yeah.
feel like kids with phones and social media, like that's a fact. Like the media raises kids nowadays, right? So
Sure.
To an
what-
extent.
Yeah, to an extent, I agree. Like, so what I want to ask you guys is, when do you think your kid should have phones, like cell phones?
I'm
A
gonna.
cell phone. Is a jitterbug flip phone a cell phone or no?
It's all right. It's an iPhone 12.
Jitterbug.
Okay, a smartphone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't have a phone until I was in sophomore year of high school. So I'm gonna go
I
first on
got,
this.
I got
I-
mine freshman year.
I
Oh,
grew up.
sad.
I grew up poor.
Yeah.
When I was younger, my parents were rich, but I didn't really get to experience that. When I got older, and then in my middle school to high school years, my parents didn't have money, so I couldn't get a phone.
The question is what would you do with your kid though? Doesn't matter how you were raised up.
Well, I'm just
What would
saying.
you
I'm
do?
just saying. I didn't have a phone, so I'm talking about past experiences.
Yeah.
I didn't have a phone. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't call my parents used to get pissed because I couldn't call them or to find out where I was at, but I didn't have a phone. I would give my kid a phone to call or text me, not an iPhone, or go on social media because I feel like social media, like I don't want my kid on TikTok. I just want them to call and text me at a
Okay,
certain age.
what-
Once they get into later years, then they can get an
What
iPhone.
age are what age are you giving them an iPhone? Like 7th grade, 8th grade?
Freshman year.
Holy
Yeah, that's
You
about
have to
right.
give them one
That's-
for high school. You have
That-
to.
yeah,
If your
that's
kid's
about
going to
right.
high school with no smartphone, bro, they're getting bullied, bro. Like,
Yeah.
they're getting bullied.
Bro, that's
I
actually
agree.
crazy.
I agree.
I got
agree.
my first phone probably in like 3rd, 4th grade. I was a flip phone.
Every phone is, yeah. Monster's got a good point.
which-
Most phones, very rare that you're gonna be able to give your kid a fucking phone that doesn't have internet access at all, unless you're giving them a
Yeah.
Nokia brick phone from 1998. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna. If
They
I,
have
The
no
Obama phone.
They'll
if
find
my-
a fucking way. They'll find
If
a way.
if my kid needs a phone, he's getting a phone with minutes on it, and I'll pay for the minutes.
That's what my first phone was, bro.
Oh yeah,
The
that's-
minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I used to do. That's what I used to use too when I was a kid, and I
But
fucking
you guys
hated
said,
it.
You guys said
But-
high
but-
school. People used to talk shit on me in like 7th grade. They'd be like, "What the fuck? You got a flip phone? Like I got an iPhone. This is in 7th grade." So
Right.
I think in 7th grade is the limit, like for kids to have phones. Like to
Well, I can
iPhone.
see
Like,
it.
I get-
I think once I start going out with friends, that's when I would give it to them.
If I
Like,
know
once
that they're
they start-
going out, I would like. I like listen. Regardless, I want. Like, here's a phone. I would trust in you to call me if you get in trouble. At least have something to get in contact with me.
Yeah.
If you get in a fucking bind, I don't give a shit if you're hammered or whatnot. As long as I have communication to you, you know, if you get in a wreck, you can communicate with me,
Yeah.
right? And like I can trust you with that. And if you want to fucking get on the internet, that's just a small price to pay in case something really bad happens to you and I need to get in touch with you right now. Let's say your mother or like God forbid, you know, a family member dies or something. I need to tell you so I can get you out of school,
Yeah.
or God forbid something happens to you and I need to come there quick. I would trade that line of communication and you sacrifice the, you looking on the fucking internet and, whatever.
Yeah.
You have to weigh out the pros and cons of giving your child a phone, definitely.
I mean, it's
Or
as
Richard was
easy as setting
explaining.
restrictions,
Right.
just like setting
The
restrictions.
pros outweigh the cons in that situation.
Yeah,
To me.
I mean, just like setting restrictions in the household, I feel like you can do with the phone too. You can check your kid's phone every day and make sure they're not downloading Instagram and TikTok. I mean, realistically, I don't know. It's hard because
It's hard to answer these questions because we haven't experienced it yet.
Right.
Yeah,
and we're
yeah.
talking from our perspective as kids, not
Yeah.
from if somebody was that age, what would you would do?
Yeah.
It's like you can't say like, well, I was that age and I did it. Who cares? What
Those
would you
times are
do to
changing.
your kid
Yeah.
right now at
Well,
2022?
I think me personally, I see kids stuck on iPads. I don't want my kid to do that. I don't want him stuck on an
I was
iPad
literally
from
just-
years kindergarten to 8th grade. I don't want him stuck on an iPad. I want him to live
I was
life.
just gonna ask you. I was just gonna ask you guys that. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Because some parents look at it like, "Yo, I can just give my fucking
Like a-
kid an iPad, turn on a video, and I don't have to worry about him for fucking 6 hours."
Well, parents use it as a way out. They're like, "Oh, my kid's crying. Just throw the tablet at him, and then
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
done. Like, I don't have to worry about it." I think
I mean,
that's
people
not parenting.
People think
Okay.
that's bad, but me personally, like, I feel like when
There's
you become
there's
a parent,
duality.
you realize, like,
There's-
fuck, like kids are, they put a lot on your fucking shoulders. So when you have something like that, like for my parents, I fell in love with video games really early, right?
Right.
So they gave me a PlayStation 2. They threw me in a room with a TV, and that was good. I was in that bitch for 8 hours a day playing fucking the first Call of Duty and shit. Like, I don't
Think
know.
of you as a parent and you're like, holy shit, I never have peace ever in my life.
Mm-hmm.
God, if I can just give him a video game so that I can get like 6 hours of fucking sleep, instead of them just fucking bugging me, mommy, daddy. That's what they're doing. They're getting a little bit of reprieve. So like, as an older guy, I can understand why they would want to do that and give you a fucking babysitter and shit. They can't give you attention 24 hours a day, fucking
Right.
7 days a week. They want a little bit of fucking free time. Hell, all of us here have free time to do whatever the fuck that we want. But can you
Yeah.
imagine if that was taken away from you for 17, 18 years?
Yeah. Like for us, we get bored. We go hop on. We go play Call of Duty. We go play basketball. We go to like a party. As a kid, you don't have that. So what are you gonna do? Just like say like you have to be with that kid 24/7. I get exactly what Richard's saying.
You can't make your kid stare at a wall for 8 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, but I'm
You
saying
have to give them some freedom.
I'm saying there's people that they're not parents. They just throw an iPad at them. They're not
Right,
being
you're
parents.
right,
They just
you're
throw
right,
an
you're right.
iPad.
Yeah.
I don't have a
They-
problem with them
they
having an
abuse it.
iPad, but
They abuse it. They abuse it.
Yeah.
if your kid's acting up and he's crying and you're not doing anything, you should be able to tell your kid this is what it is, not just throw an iPad at him and be like,
I agree.
I can understand if your kid's been doing it all day crying, just being annoying, but I don't think it should be a scapegoat every single time your kid's acting up. I think
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
should be a
because-
parent.
I totally agree.
Will,
Because if you do like let the iPad be a scapegoat, how you just said, I mean, I feel like kids are definitely manipulative. So they'll definitely manipulate the whole situation in order for them to get,
To get
like,
that.
reward.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll just scream and cry until they get it. Because they
Will-
know you'll give it to them ultimately.
Will, what do you think?
Wait, so I'm just really confused on what Dylan's saying. Are you saying like a kid as in like an infant who's crying? Or is he
Yeah,
saying,
like I'm saying like up to 4 years old, like 1 to 4, 2 to 4.
Well, that's like the same argument as like I throw an iPad at them, stop crying. What about like when you give them a pacifier to stop crying? Like, are you like what do you like want to do to make them stop crying? Like, well, I don't see what's wrong with giving them an iPad if that's what they want to do and they want to like watch their show or something.
That's not what I'm saying. So if a kid's acting up, say they don't want the iPad at all. So say they're just acting up, they're being
What do
annoying,
they
they're
want?
throwing stuff. I don't know.
Okay.
They're just
Yeah,
they want to do something. They're just throwing
You're
shit.
acting a fool. Acting a fool.
They're just throwing shit around.
And
Okay.
then as a parent, some parents just say, "Here's an iPad. I don't want to listen to it anymore." I think people aren't disciplining their kids. They're just throwing an iPad in their face and saying, "Just leave me alone." I
Like,
can see if it's happening for 8 hours a day, and in that day, throw the iPad at them, just shut up for 5 minutes of my time so I can just chill and not listen to you scream. But I feel like people use that as a get out of I don't want to be a parent right now, and I just want to just not listen to you. But
Okay,
Yeah.
well, real quick, what Dylan is basically saying is parents, like lazy parents, instead of giving like their kid a stern talking to or like spanking them, how we were talking about earlier, they would just
Yeah.
throw an iPad at them because he knows that would like shut them up in a second.
Yeah, but I'm
Basically.
confused because like we're talking about young child. How are we giving them a stern talking to? If they're like 3 years old, they're
Right,
not really
like formative
understanding a
years.
stern talking to. Like if my 3-year-old or younger son or daughter is crying, I'm putting their favorite show on TV that they like. I'm sitting them on the couch. I'm sitting next to them. We're watching the show. Like I don't understand what
But then
talking
I
to
feel
I have
like-
to have with them.
I feel like that'll give them the mindset of like, oh, like if I just cry and complain about it and ask for it, like I'm just gonna get it whatever I want. So that way, when they become older, in the back of their mind, they have this thing that they were raised with, like, oh, if I just cry and cry and cry about it, I'll get what the fuck I want. Like they get to age like 10, they're like, my whole life I've been crying and getting what I want. They're like,
Well,
oh,
that's
mom,
that's
mom,
if,
I wanna...
if you allow it to happen for years and years and
What's the
years.
alternative
You know?
though? Like I'm confused. What the
you're
alternative is?
Like,
saying as a parent you can't talk to your infant child. You can. That's how
They
they
don't
learn.
really understand what I'm saying. Like I'm obviously
doesn't-
going to talk
okay,
to them and
they-
say like, "Hey, that you can't be doing this. Like,
they-
we gotta calm down." But I'm
they
going to
do
put the
understand.
TV on and like we're going to sit down and chill out. Like that's what I don't understand. What the alternative is? I don't understand how it's a bad thing if we're putting
I'm
their
not saying
favorite
it's
show on and
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not necessarily a bad thing. There are times I've said it like 4 times. I said some parents use it. That's perfectly fine. Some parents only use it as a way
Right.
out. They don't
Yeah.
teach their kid not
That
to
makes,
do
that
this,
makes
not
sense.
to do that.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair.
I
You're
think
right.
you should be teaching your kid that you don't just get whatever you want whenever you're crying and asking for it. Like that I feel like that's what Dylan's saying.
I mean, I've lived with it. My fucking
Ooh.
nephew and niece. My
Good.
nephew and niece, they cry and cry and cry, and my sister just fucking gives them what they want, and then bam, it's
Right.
done. She doesn't tell them no.
They
She just throws
basically-
it.
Dylan is saying kids should not be rewarded for bad behavior. is what
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
trying to say.
Yo,
Well, there's times where you can pacify and take the easy way out, but if you do it consistently, then the kid becomes used to the routine and they know it's cause and effect. If I cry, I get what I want, right? And now what you've done is you've created a freaking vicious cycle where the kid understands and becomes cognizant that you will give them whatever they want when they do this thing. It's like, animal behavior that early. You know what
can
I
we
mean?
read what just got put in the chat, please?
yes, let's go over
Okay, my buddy hooked up with a girl.
Because I
about
got
a
something to
week.
say about that.
Yeah, let's
Alright,
go over
alright,
what
alright.
Caden said. Yo, by the way, what up, Caden? He said, okay, my buddy hooked up with a girl about a week ago. She moved back home, which is like 2 hours away. Last night, she didn't snap him all evening and didn't answer
Do you
until
like it?
4 p.m. Oh,
Yeah, but we can read the chat. We know what he's saying.
okay.
Okay.
Wait, am I still lagging?
Yeah.
Your camera's frozen. Oh, no, you're good.
Wait, can you guys hear me? Am I good?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
All right, my
you're
bad. He said, okay, my buddy hooked up with a girl about a week ago. She moved back home, which is like 2 hours away. Last night, she didn't snap him all evening and didn't answer until 4 p.m. the next day. Thoughts on how to handle this situation?
Man, she was hooking up with another guy, unfortunately. Sad to say. But you gotta let your buddy know that's not his girl.
I
If he
mean-
thought it was, it's not his girl.
I'm the type to not really to like say, oh, you have to answer me back.
Jump
like,
jump to conclusion.
Yeah, I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy to. Yo, what the fuck?
Genji, man.
I didn't even understand what was happening.
He ran out of sandwiches, started eating the mic.
Yo, what was I gonna say? What the fuck were you talking? Oh yeah, I'm not the type of guy to be like, you have to answer me at a certain amount of time. But if you're taking a whole fucking day to answer me and I have no idea what the fuck you're at, like,
You don't fuck with you.
you're
You hooked up with
you're
a
If
girl.
a girl really fucks with you, bro, she's answering quick, bro. I don't care what anyone says. Hours ain't going by where she don't reply.
that's facts.
You hooked up with a girl a week ago, right? And so if you're looking for, allegiance from a girl that you just hooked up with, come on, man.
Oh
Like,
yeah, the last snap that he got from her, she was hammered. Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
She's for,
Yeah,
she's
dude.
for the
Oh
streets, bro.
my
Yeah.
It's
God.
lucky if she only hooked up with one guy. That's a win if
Right.
she only hooked up with one.
and you probably should get checked.
The room looked like this Discord channel that she was in.
Yeah, like it was yeah.
She
Like,
probably looks
picture
like
a
a
girl-
fucking Arby's roast beef sandwich turned sideways. Dude.
Picture a girl. Oh my fucking god! Picture a girl right here, just with all of us. That's exactly what the fuck she was doing.
Okay. This guy keeps putting this in chat. Should schools teach about LGBTQ and gender and brainwash them?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they should. I think a kid should learn that on their own, and I think they do because I learned it. But I do think to the point where again it's becoming way more common,
Yeah.
and it's becoming way like I feel like at a certain point you have to learn about it, or else you're just gonna be
Alright.
confused.
Well,
I don't
what-
think it should be teach even if it's common doesn't mean it should be teached in school or taught in school. Bro, school shootings are common. Like that's not getting taught. Just because it's common doesn't mean it should be getting taught. That shit should be you should learn on your own. There's no way that should be taught in school. I don't even see how someone could argue it should.
At the end of the day, the whole LGBTQ shit, right? That's a feeling. Like if you feel like you're attracted towards men, like that's how you feel. That's how it is. Why should a school be teaching you like feelings? When have schools ever taught you about like fucking feelings?
Well, I feel like there's certain things that separate school and being a parent. I feel like parents should be teaching this stuff because of, like
True. Yeah, they should. Why isn't school teaching about like physical responsibility, like balancing a checkbook, how to manage bills, how to fucking like do real skills and shit that it's never prepared you for. If the Alphabet Mafia wants to come after you on that stuff, learn that afterwards and then like come to your own opinions. But I think that like core curriculum should be like, how do I survive as a human being? Like, how do I pay my taxes?
Yeah,
How do I function in society so I don't go to jail? That sort of thing. It should be that stuff that's being trained, not like gender equality and that stuff. That's your own opinion. You come to
Exactly.
your own volition on that. But God, the schools got to train you on how to function as an adult in capitalism. Right?
Yeah.
And that's never being trained. And it's always been like a fucking piss poor excuse of, or a letdown of like the school systems here in America. Like train people on how to function as adults as soon as they get out. No one teaches you that, especially if you have shitty parents. If you have parents that aren't good, that are poor, that don't give you physical responsibility, they are going to give you the bad habits it's like God and be God. You are going to learn from shitty parents that are going to give you the same bad advice, and you're going to pass that on to your kids, and you're going to make them fucking poor too. Get yourself out of the socioeconomic fucking grind and learn how to fend for yourself and do well. This other stuff should be side stuff that you learn on your own and you can just come to your own opinions on.
Yeah.
well, that's how my parents were. Like my parents were poor, but they did every single thing they could to make sure that we had what we needed. Like they weren't bullshit spending money. Like they knew what they had to do. They were paying their bills. They knew what they had to do. Like they were fighting every single day for me, my brother, and my sister. Like every day.
The first thing they knocked off their list is getting food on the table, having lights in the house, having water, right?
I mean, we were so poor that sometimes I was sharing bathwater with my siblings. They got that bad, but they were still doing everything they could. Like there were some times where my dad wasn't even eating for weeks.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
to
I
drink.
feel like that's more. I mean, obviously the whole feelings and teaching your kids about things is important, but I feel like the physical things are almost more important than that. Because like you can teach your kid all this shit, but at the end of the day, if you're living in a fucking box and you're getting kicked out and living on the street, at what point do those feelings even fucking matter or how you should be raised? Someone also said like same shit about racism. That shouldn't. I think that
Racism is taught in school, Monster. I don't know, like there's like literally a whole class called the history class where they literally teach about like
I do
what
think
happened in the past and how we avoid repeating the past.
I don't think that like you can make the same argument for like gender and LGBT for racism because I think it is history. I think everybody should know like what happened.
well, and racism is like a negative thing. Like it's like an actual like bad thing. You know what I mean? LGBTQ and all that shit. It's not a negative thing. It's just if you are like you are or you're not. You know what I mean?
Monster, racism is a subtopic in history class.
I mean, we learned it
At
for
least
like
in
2
my
months at least.
Yeah.
I learned it when I was really young in middle school, and I learned it again in high school.
He said, Monster is saying racism is a feeling. What am I reading?
All right, we're gonna need to avoid the chat from Monster Myers for
Monster,
the extension of this podcast.
Yeah, you're talking out of your ass. I don't know.
You are faded, brother.
Like, I don't even know what he's trying to say. I really don't. I don't know what he's trying to say.
So what do you mean, Monster? By slavery isn't history, not hatred. What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, I think
he's
I
talking off
think
the
I don't
rails.
know that,
Yeah.
but that's what I think though. Racism is like it's a negative thing. Obviously, it's like a bad thing. If you're gay, that's not a bad thing. That's just how you feel. You know what I mean? Racism is a completely different thing, I think, than from like LGBTQ and all that shit. That's also another thing I feel like your parents should raise you. Like, obviously, school teaches it already, but parents should like bring up racism and shit. How it
Well,
was
I
back in
don't
the day.
think that random person that sits in a room all day and fucking hates students should be teaching my kid about something that I should be telling them about. I don't think it's not like I don't think teachers should be teaching it. I think that parents should talk about it when they get older and they understand. I don't think I should be talking about how gay
I
people. I don't think I should be talking about that shit when they're fucking 8 years old because they don't fucking care. They care about fucking playing video games and fucking going to
Right.
kick a ball outside.
Right.
Like,
School should be teaching you how to survive and have practical skills to be able to function in society, right? And then that it seems like, as it gets, later into your formative years, you go from middle school to high school, that stuff doesn't get taught, right? Where like that's where you need to learn, like, hey, I need to balance checkbooks. I need to, if you have a bank account, what's the difference between the savings and checking? What is stocks? What is investing? What is
Yeah.
owning a home versus renting? Stuff like that, because those are the things that don't get taught, where you have to be like, holy shit, I got to figure this out. If I don't have good parents, if I don't have parents that know how to do that, in worst case scenario, if they are shitty parents and have never done that themselves, they're going to pass the same bad habits on to you. And if you don't have a lick of sense, you're going to eat up all of that information that they feed you because you live with them, and you're going to pass that on to your kids, and it's going to be fucking idiocracy. The dumb teach the dumb, and they get dumber.
That's
Is the
Okay.
problem.
I agree.
I-
Wait, hold on. Wait. Kenji, go. Kenji, go.
Okay, first I want to say, Richard, you are one of the most like woke persons I've ever heard. Honestly, stay woke. But second, like referring back to that LGBTQ thing, I don't see a reason to bring that up to your child unless it is asked from them. You know what I mean? Unless they ask me, I just don't see a reason why I would ever bring that up. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like a
yeah.
personal opinion. I know we don't usually talk about like personal opinions, like we try not to,
Yeah.
but I just don't see a reason to bring that topic up ever
I agree.
unless
Yeah.
they are asking. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Dylan.
well, Monster said parents teach hatred, school teaches the history of slavery.
Dude, I
What
don't
is
know
that?
what he's. I don't
Yeah,
know. He's just talking out his
stop,
ass.
stop,
Just ignore.
stop
Well,
reading it.
okay,
Anyways,
so I mean,
no,
it depends on where you
oh.
live in. There's like you could be, from Alabama, or you could be from Mississippi. Like, I used to have a girlfriend that lived, or actually went to school at Auburn, Alabama, right? And the people down there, they are racist, man. It's
bit.
very, no, they're very racist, but that's their upbringing and stuff. And, they'll do the whole bless your heart thing, that's what Southern people do to be able to, give you like the quintessential, like, we think that you're stupid, but, hey, we respect you, but you're stupid. Depending on where you live in, you are going to get different perspectives, but as a educated person, you have the ability to form your own opinions. It doesn't matter how your parents raised you. Once you get older, when you're in your 20s, 30s, you have to have your own opinion to be like, you know what, this is how I feel. I'm not going to let anybody like mold me based off of how they're pushing on their feelings or
Yeah.
how my parents feel. It's how you feel, right? And I think a lot of people that are younger feel like, I have to adhere to what other people are thinking, and they lose a self sense of identity, of not being able to come up with their own opinions, and being able to come up and say, hey, this is how I think about this particular situation, and here's how I have a different voice. People that are weak or weak-minded, or they have been subjugated by their family or whatnot, have been brainwashed. Those are the people that will regurgitate what their parents have done, and you can see those people coming a mile away, because you can obviously see that their opinions are not valid. They don't do structure like this where they debate. They're just, I believe in this, and this is it, and there's no there's no argument between it.
Yeah. Well, we got to wrap things up in a little bit, but let's just get to this one last topic. I got to ask you guys, since we're already on the boat of like education and stuff. How would you do with your kids not wanting to like go to school? Obviously, you're gonna make them go to school for the first, like 8 7 8 years, 10 years. But once they get into high school, things start to change a lot, and they start to like grow up and realize like what they like, what's just like if school's not for a kid, it's not for a kid. That's how I look at it. But how would you guys take it if your kids like wanted to drop out of school?
Go ahead.
So I grew up fucking hating school, and obviously I didn't fucking do it in high school, and I went online and did it anyway. But looking back at it now, I'm like, holy fuck, like that is my biggest regret in life, is fucking around in school. Cause like, unless you are a fucking YouTuber, streamer, you have your own business when you're a freshman in high school, you need a degree in high school to do anything in life. You need that degree, or unless you just catch a lucky break and you win the fucking lottery and you can't even buy a lottery ticket. I mean, you need that degree to do anything. You don't need to go to college necessarily. You can go to trade school. There's a million things you can do. You don't need to go to college.
That's true.
But I think there's a stigma around college where people say, oh, it's useless. It's useless if you go for stupid degrees. If you go to school to get a gender study degree, like, you're not going to get a fucking job off of that. You're not going to get a job off an art degree. People go to school and get stupid degrees. They waste their money and they say, I hate college. And then they tell people I hate college. But you have other people.
And they're riddled with debt. They have $60,000 in debt that they pissed away and that they can't pay back. Really, like I was a director of admissions for 3 colleges, 2 in Kansas City, 1 in LA, where I worked for a law college as a director of admissions. Let me tell you the biggest shit when it comes to college, whether it be for profit or non for profit, is that STEM degrees pay money, right? If you're in science, technology, mechanics, engineering, those pay money. Those are the real, if you're going to go to college, get a STEM degree. Communications, arts and stuff, that will not pay your bills, right?
Wait.
Like, unless you get lucky. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I'm trying to like stick on the track of like raising a kid who like didn't want to go to school. Like, Dylan, what would you do if your kid would tell you like, yo, I don't want to do high school anymore. Like, I want to drop out. Like, I'm
forcing you to go to school. There's nothing you can do about it.
Like, so my opinion on that is, like, if my kid chooses to drop out, it's like, yeah, you can drop out, but you're not living under my roof. I'm not providing for you. As long as you stay in school, I will provide for you.
Well, the thing about it is, what are you dropping out of school for? For what? Because you hate school? You're too lazy to do it? That's how I was.
You got 3 options. You got 3 options. Go to school, go to a technical college and learn a trade like HVAC, electricians, plumbing or whatnot, or go to the military. You got those 3 things.
Right. Well,
you can go to the military if I can't pay for school, and it'll pay you through. That's how I went to college. I went to the Marines. I was in the Marines for a number of years. My parents were poor as shit. I used my GI Bill to go to college, right? So depending on where you at in a socioeconomic stance, you can have those options, but you're doing one of those 3 things. You're not fucking dicking around. You're doing something.
I kind of like completely disagree with both of you guys, because me growing up, I hated school and shit, right? I never wanted to go. I hated it, right? So I dropped out and shit. I did online. I got my diploma, right? Well, I have a diploma and shit. There's not a single job that I worked yet that required a diploma. They did not require me to show any diploma.
You haven't worked any high value job yet. Like a high profile job, you haven't worked one yet.
Yeah, you're also 10 years old.
What do you mean by high profile?
You're 10, Zerby.
I mean, you're not working for a Fortune 500 company.
I know, but it really makes no sense, because my dad. My dad's job doesn't require a high school degree, and he's making over 6 figures. So he built a career out of it. He's been working at Tyson for 20, 30 years. Like, you can build a career out of literally anything. Except
I agree with you.
But like you said, he had to work 20, 30 years. You go to college.
No, he worked like 5 years. He worked like 5 years to get it. So would you rather have your kid have your kid go to college for 5 years and spend all the money, or you can go out, drop out, go get a job for 5 years, work your way up in the company, and then you're set?
Dude, I think it's circumstantial, because I've had that opportunity where I didn't have a degree and I got it later on. So when I say, like, it's not linear, right? Like, you go to the military, you get your college degree and shit. I did my work, and got myself in business higher up before I got my degree. I got it after the fact. So, Survey, I can agree with you. You're right. If you have the talent level and you have the experience, you can do that. But it's very, very rare that you're able to jump that, right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that as a parent, this is probably the easiest way for you to guarantee your success and at least have good earning potential coming out instead of like rolling the dice, because it's like catch me if you can. You could possibly do well and you can trick other people into doing it, but you always have that chance where people can come back at you and they can use your credentials against you.
Yeah.
So you could always play that, or you could always have your credentials sound and no one could ever take that away from you. So
Yeah.
you're right. There's a duality there.
Well, growing up, ever since I was young, I always didn't like school. I knew personally since probably like 7th grade, you can say like I wasn't old enough to know. From 7th grade up, I know I wasn't going to college. I did not want to spend my money on college. Even
That's
if it wasn't
fine.
my money, my dad offered me, I'll pay for any college you want to go to. You can get whatever the fuck degree you want. I said
Right.
no, because I don't want to do it. So if I'm raising a kid and my kid's the same exact way, like you can fucking drop out if you want. If you have something in mind and plan that you want to do after you drop out, and it's a reasonable plan, then fucking go for it. Mine
If
was,
it's a reasonable plan, if they have a sound mind and you feel like there is an adult and you can entertain that, be like, listen, you
Yeah.
sell me on it, no problem.
yeah,
But
I'm
most
letting
of
my
them,
kid drop out. And if say he wants to be a Twitch streamer, say he wants to start his own business, I'm gonna help him because
Go ahead,
obviously that's
Kenji.
my fucking
Oh,
child.
yeah.
I want to help him do
Yeah,
it.
wait 1 second.
Mhm.
I know Will can actually like. I feel like this question is like pretty personal to Will. I feel like Will's gone through this, so like I wanted to hear his standpoint on this because I know like just previously, but like Will, could you kind of explain like how this question applies to you? Because I know it does definitely.
Or like your kid for high school.
Yeah, for high school. I
That
mean, what
and
I,
if-
like
like
high school / college. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
Like, I know you went to college, but like you have a job now and it's like paying great, has great benefits and stuff like that. So can you like talk through that a little bit? Will?
Yeah, I think high school is like a little different than college. I think for me personally, like I would make my kid go through high school, and like it's from a different perspective from what you guys are saying. I think like no kid wants to wake up and go to high school every day. I think like we all can agree on that.
yeah,
But like I personally think part of growing up and being an adult is waking up every day and doing something sometimes you don't always want to do. So I think them going through that at a younger age sets them up for success when they get older because they're waking up every day and they're going to do something that maybe they don't want to do every day. Like I think we all sometimes wake up every day and we do things we don't really feel like doing, right? So I think that's why I would make them go through high school. And I also think like high school has a lot of like good experiences too, like prom, like
100%.
football games on a Friday night. Like I think there's a lot of things that like you can get a full experience out of high school. And then like you definitely don't need a college degree to make money in today's world. Like there's a lot of like companies that you can start at like such a young age and like develop so fast, and like there's hundreds of companies you can do that. It can be big popular ones, it can be small ones, but like if you can find like a skill that you have, like there's so many skills that are like you wouldn't even think is a skill. Like literally
right.
being able to have a conversation with a stranger like is a skill. That
Well,
like that's a
it's
skill.
sales. It's what we're doing
Yeah,
right
like
now.
that is literally a skill. So like that's slightly off topic, but like just in general, like yes, I'd make them go through high school. College isn't super necessary. I think it can be good though, depending on what you want to do. I think it depends on the person, but I think that like there's so much room to like make money in today's world, and like sometimes it might not be stuff you want to do every day, but like you have to go to high school, in my opinion.
yeah.
Well, I think the
I think
one
it
thing
teaches you
about
values.
I think college and high school are completely different things because college, like, some people aren't sure if they want to go to college, so they'll go and try it out and be like, "This isn't for me." School is just not for everybody. Like, some people are better at doing other things, like they'll go. But I think if my kid wants to drop out when he's a sophomore, and I tell it like he like tells me he's like, "Oh, I just want to be a manager at Walmart," like, no,
Well,
you're not gonna be a
if
manager at
your kid
Walmart.
says some
You can't just
bullshit
get what
like
you want that
then
easy.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
setting them up for failure. Like if
I-
you give them what they want that easy, like they
That's
have to
bad
wake up every day
parenting.
and do something that they don't want to do. There's nothing you can do in this world. Only 1% of people I would say can wake up every day and like do what they want to do and have a smile on their face every day. Like you're gonna have to wake up and do things you don't always want to do.
Yeah.
And it takes time to understand what you want to do. I didn't understand what I wanted to do until I was in my early 30s, right? I went through my whole 20s, not knowing what was going on. I was in the Marines. I didn't want to do that as a career. The thing is that if you put yourself in a position to go to college, you are incurring debt that will last for 20, 30 years, right? And so you, like in high school, you don't incur that, right? You have that ability to be able to say, hey, I can fuck off, or I can decide to go further.
Yeah.
You know, that's on your own volition. But once you go to college and you start taking Pell Grants out, or you start taking loans out and shit, that thing adds up. And you see all these people saddled with debt with for 30, 40, 50, 60, $100,000 in debt with like degrees with communication. They have no intentions of paying that shit back, right? And it's compounding interest, right? And it lasts for them for 20, 30 years, and it saddles them, and they can't get credit cards, and they can't get approved for home loans because they have put themselves in such egregious debt that they never even planned on doing that.
Right.
There should be more education on in school, in high school, to say, hey, before you do this, realize what you're getting yourself into. And if you do this, realize the repercussions that you have the rest of your life and how this will limit you forever.
Yeah.
Well, I think it comes down. I think one of the other things is, this is kind of off topic, but it's more into college. I feel like kids go to college, they want to get a degree that's useless. They get that degree, and they can't get a job because it's useless.
Well,
So they're like, "What the fuck do I do now?"
even if
and
it's
then
not,
they're
even if it's not useless, I mean, you're an 18-year-old kid going into college. I think at you're 18 years old, you're still a young fucking kid. You don't know exactly what the fuck you want. So say you want to be something, you really love it. At the age of 18, you want to be like a fucking doctor or some shit. It takes like fucking what? How long does it take to be a doctor?
7 years.
No,
7
at
years.
least 8 years. You go through 4 years of full practice. I had a friend of mine that went and got his general practice degree. It takes at least 8, sometimes even 12 years, depending if you want to be a general practitioner in medicine.
So as an 18-year-old kid, you want to fucking do that shit, right? What at your 4th year, you're gonna be what? Fucking 22 years old? Like your mind is completely different as a 22-year-old fucking man from like an 18-year-old fucking kid.
Right.
Yeah, but I do think that some people are. Hold on. I do think there are 18 people that are stern on what they want. They want to be a doctor, and I do think some people, if you want to be a doctor, you have to be something like you are mature, you're smart, you know what you're doing. So if you're 18, you know you're going into like you know.
I mean, I have a friend that said he wanted to be a doctor at 18. He switched his major 5 different times through college, and now he just completely dropped out because as years go on, you're thinking in your head that you don't exactly want to do that. You want to do it for the money. So then you
go through
with
mental
something else.
epiphanies, and you're like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And when you go through that mental epiphany, it's like leveling up in an RPG in real life. You're like, I am not the same person that I was fucking 20 minutes ago, right? You're like, for real. That's really what it is. Like you have a general change in perspective. And you're like, I see the world differently now. And if they want to make that choice, the thing is that sometimes those choices are such a detriment to their financial well-being, especially if they're taking a linear point and going into fucking medicine. If you decide that you don't want to get in that 6 years in, holy shit, you're probably $120,000 in.
Yeah,
and
you're
man,
fucked.
that's a fucking terrible part.
Kenji,
That's
did you want to
terrible.
say?
Can I say something? Yeah. Yeah, I do want to say I love like these are like great points, and I feel like all 5 of us we love this topic. We could literally talk about this for hours upon hours.
Yeah.
But we are running short on time.
We do episodes weekly, so we'll be back again next week on Thursday with a new topic. I don't know if you guys are kind of into like e-dates or you know what e-dates are, but we're going to start getting those rolling a little bit too. So any females that are watching this that are interested in maybe being on the show or being on an e-date, hit any of us up. Hit up we have all of our socials everywhere, so just hit us up and let us know. We'll be more than happy to have you on. But yeah, thank you for watching this episode. Episode 3, we got episode 4 coming next week. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow everything. We're about to fucking be the #1 fucking podcast in the entire fucking planet. So, thank you guys. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Awesome.
Okay, that's how I'm feeling. She asked me if I'm fine. I said, hell no, bitch, I'm healing. My money standing tall, sticking it up right to the ceiling.